Hi, my name is David, and I wanted to give you a demo of the new app I built. So it's called the Cocktail app, and it's open source on GitHub where you can see the code. And here's the deployed version of it. And the purpose of this is that you can log in into your account. So you can log in using your Gmail account. Great, my information was already saved. And then you can search for cocktails. So you can say vodka, and you find one, and then you can save it. And then it says save successful. And then you can look at all your saved ones. And then you can remove it as well. And then if you go to saved, it's no longer there. And afterwards, you can sign out. And then you have to be logged in to save. And then if you search a drink, it's not there. So the save button's not there. So how I did it was that I first used GitHub to create the issues and user stories for all the functionality I wanted, just as be able to log in, save, and so forth. And then after that, I created a wireframe on Adobe XD to get a general idea of how I wanted it to look. And then the tech stack I used for this was that the front end was Next.js. For the design, I used Material UI, and it's completely responsive, as you can see here, using Flexbox here. And then I use Redux Toolkit to manage the state whenever I make the API calls to the Cocktail DB website. And for the backend, I use Firebase for the authentication, and then the Firestore for holding the data. So to be more specific with it, here, so when you log in, I have it in the sidebar, and what I did was that I used new Google Auth provider through Firebase, and then I followed the code to make it work. And then you can see here that in Firebase, I have an account here, and then the sign-in method, we can see here I enable Google. So that was how the authentication was handled. And then I had to keep track if someone's logged in or not. I had a context, and we have a use effect on auth change. So whenever the auth changes on Firebase, it will let the app know on the code. And then we have a set user to keep track of it globally in the document of who is being logged in or logged out. Next, for the searching part, I have a search component here. Sorry, this is the results for the search bar. And here I use uState to get the state as you type it in. And then when you submit it, I just back the actions for getting cocktails, and it gets what you searched. So then we go to Redux. And we can see here, we make a fetch call to the cocktail DB. And then depending on the success, we have loading success, failed, and the results get appended to this array, and the display is whatever you put in. So if you put in pink, for example, this is the pink being displayed, and this is what's being the results. And the results are rendered in the search results component. And we can see here we have a container, so it doesn't get too wide at the XL max width. And then mapping over the cocktail card for these individual cards. So we can look at the cocktail card, and this is the information, and we're getting the cocktail data from it. So now what you can do is that there's a handle more info click. So if you click on it, this is the ID of it, and it finds that ID, and we also make a single cocktail search. So that also involves Redux in the single cocktail reducer, and it searches by that ID on it, and it returns the information. And then when you logged in, you're able to save it. So when you save it, there's an array that gets pushed. So when you save it, it gets saved to the Firebase. So when you save it, we use this Firestore database, and there's a save collection, and here's my ID for it. And you can see here, these are the cocktails in array. These are the cocktails that are being saved inside of here. For example, Pink Lady, Watermelon, and the corresponding ones. And then when you save it, it's being in sync with another context called, let me find it real fast. Oh yeah, here. So we're having a use effect that gets all the cocktails from the saved and finding it by the user ID. And then we have a array that's in sync with what we have, and that is what corresponds to what you're being shown here. And you can sign out, and that'll be it for this demo. The deploy link is on here in the GitHub repo, and you can feel free to play around with it. Thank you so much.